Good evening. I'm Sue Crumbine, and on behalf of the Women's Club of Palo Alto, I'd like to welcome you to our beautiful historic clubhouse. We are especially pleased to present this program because we know that the women who opened the clubhouse in 1916 would embrace this kind of community event. They focused on many community issues, including access to libraries and schools, adequate city utilities and healthy parkway trees, as well as a woman's right to vote. Today, we are eager to be involved in the community, seeking solutions to pressing problems. We are confident that tonight's program will interest you and open your eyes to what's happening and what's not happening in our own community. The pandemic that really revealed many needs that have gone unmet. And though local organizations have stepped up, we as community members know how important it is to know what's going on and learn how we might take action. It is our hope that tonight will be the beginning of many programs and conversations. And now I'd like to introduce tonight's MC. Mary Hughes is the founder of Close the Gap California, a statewide effort to achieve gender balance in the California legislature by 2028. She's a campaign strategist whose work contributed to many firsts for women in state and federal elective offices. And she is a resident with her husband in Palo Alto's Duveneck St. Francis Wood neighborhood. Mary?
Thank you so very much. Thank you all. And thanks to all the women at the club who made tonight possible. Isn't it wonderful to be together? It's been a long time. Really great. Great to see you all. So, as Sue mentioned, about 20 months ago, we began to separate, hibernate, and cocoon. We've been away from our friends, our colleagues, our workspaces, and each other. And we've been away from some of the volunteer activities that we have traditionally done. Tonight, we're gonna think together about how the post-COVID Palo Alto might look. What we can do to build community, how we can weave together a sense of belonging after all this separation, and what each of us can do to move that along a little bit. So I hope you will keep that in mind as we go along. We're gonna explore this by PechaKucha. Now, PechaKucha is Japanese for chit-chat, and what that really means is fast. So we're gonna do rapid fire presentations of pictures and words. Each of 5 presenters from mental health, the city of Palo Alto, the arts, philanthropy, and environment will have 20 seconds to describe each of 20 slides to tell their story. Ana Lilia Soto is the Youth Development Manager at the Stanford Center for Youth Mental Health, and she is going to talk to us about the help they give at allcove Palo Alto. She is a community mental health worker specializing in cultural rites of passage and life skill development for young people, and she's created programming that encourages them to know their potential using a philosophy grounded in culture, identity, and resilience.
Ana Lilia Soto, Youth Development Manager with the Center. I wanted to highlight some of the really awesome work that comes out of the Center for Youth Mental Health and Wellbeing. We're a small and mighty team who our work really is about getting into the community, building bridges, connecting with schools and connecting with students. Our state, where we're at with us in, right now, this is from Mental Health America. And this really talks about what's been going on the last 6 years. From an increase in depression with our youth, and over now 2 million youth have depression with severe impairment. This was done right before COVID really started. Sorry, I'm not used to 20 seconds. I wanted to highlight a big reason of why we're here. 2009 and 2015, we had 2 suicide clusters here in Palo Alto. which really affected our community, affected our youth. And right now, we also know that we haven't seen the ramifications of what that's happened, but we also got to build community. And out of that, Project Safety Net came about, as well as a Herd Alliance, so really connected with community. And this is actually how we started allcove and bringing what we do out in the community. Smithian, who is the supervisor here, was one of the first people that really, I'm just gonna put this away, who really talked about what we needed. I wanted to also highlight some mental health system challenges that our schools are going through with capacity and space and turnover and resources and vacations and summers. Our youth really need services at this moment and haven't been able to really access them. I had a great meeting with our mental wellness centers, and they talked about the need to have outside services. Headspace is one of the services that Dr. Edelstein was really looking into, making sure if this was something that we could bring to the US. In 2015, we had a feasibility study that really looked, can something like this work here? Can we have an integrated center that really is a mental health continuum for young people, which supports school health mental health programs, provide something for our young folks in early prevention and early intervention, as well as has pathways for early psychosis programs if the needs are needed. The age-old question of if we build it, will they come? This was actually more if our youth wanted, what are their needs? And so this feasibility study was done with our first youth advisory group, as well as youth across the nation from as far as New York, and we also hit the Midwest. I like to highlight seeking professional help and leaping over a huge abyss. What we're really talking about is how do we really engage with young folks in bridging that systemic gap? How do we provide brick and mortar centers where young people can go of their own volition if they want services, where integrated care is provided, where it's holistic, where early intervention is emphasized, as well as being able to come in. allcove. Our name really talks about all people, all emotions. We have this stereotype of mental health out in the community where you need to be going through something to ask for help. We talk about in whatever emotion you are, whatever state you're in, you're more than welcome. The cove is a protective space. And if you can see this right here, it talks about being, it's an open space where it's a young person, you can come and get services as you need them. How is the model unique? It's youth-centered. There's a really strong and active youth advisory board that really works on engaging the community and making sure that are we meeting the community needs with youth-focused solutions. Look at me catching up. The first two allcove centers I'm really glad to share. They just opened June 2021. I've been at Stanford now for 4 years, and I'm really excited. It's a 4-year journey for me, but an 8-year journey for Dr. Edelstein and the rest of our team to bring these two centers. These centers are really focused, again, with our youth advisory group, and our main goals for the youth advisory group are raising awareness, are reducing stigma, encouraging help-seeking behaviors. These are youth from your community who have applied and are saying, these are the services that we need, this is how you integrate us into these services, and we want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our community. The mission and vision and values, I like to share this because your youth came up with this. Their vision is to revolutionize how young people see mental health, how they access mental health. Their focus is youth voice, accessibility, and mental wellness. We really are talking about a really big movement in changing how young people are seeing youth mental health. The principles of youth participation that we have go from youth involvement, expertise, and really validating that lived experience as expert experience. How do we make sure that their needs are really represented in the center? We follow this in terms of leadership development, learning from them, and being able to make sure they're involved in everything with shared decision making. So the opportunities for youth voice and feedback really talk about the intentionality that allcove and our center has taken in including youth voice. It's not just services, it's not just the design, it's not the pretty things. We're talking advocacy, we're talking policies and procedures that they develop. We're talking how to really engage and bring them into the fold. These are our 10 model components that one, talk about how a center, if they want to be an allcove, this is what they have to have. But in the middle, youth engagement, participation, and development. With community linkages, with making sure that we have a community advisory board made up of awesome people such as yourself, as well as being able to have a youth advisory group. We're connected and unique. As we grow these two centers, They build awareness, they build understanding, they build engagement, but at the same time, each one is going to be recognizable and look, feel, and experience. There's a cultural and social. I cannot talk 20 seconds. Let me talk about our growing network. We just opened 2 in San Jose and in Palo Alto. This year, we're working with big cities in Los Angeles, the Peninsula Healthcare District in San Mateo, the Sacramento Behavioral Health Center in Sacramento, the UC Irvine, as well as other nonprofits. This work could not have been done with all of this awesome support that we've had in the community from Santa Clara County Behavioral Health, from IDEO, from all these awesome foundations, Robert Wood Johnson, the California Healthcare Foundation. A lot of beautiful people came together to help us do this. I think I have one more slide. There you go, look at me, I get the clock. Please, can I just mention, as a Latina, I'm a storyteller. We like to delve, we like to take the long path. This was a challenging thing, but I'm really glad to be here. Please contact us. Great job.
Chantal Cotton-Gaines is the Deputy City Manager for the City of Palo Alto. She leads multi-departmental efforts for the city and intergovernmental relations. She manages the city's race and equity initiatives, including for public safety. Chantal mentors future leaders at the YMCA's Youth in Government program.
Thank you, Mary. Take my deep breath now. Race, 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 race. Last year was the first time that this conversation came to the fore, where it was an emphasis that things may not be equal amongst everyone depending on race. It was an awkward time. We learned about things like systemic racism, things like redlining, and it wasn't just in communities in the Midwest, but in San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose. The question came up, is this a relevant conversation for Palo Alto to talk about race? The answer is yes. The city worked on that head on. The City Council adopted an equity mission statement, really taking leadership on this issue and saying this is a community-wide discussion on equity as a whole, not just race, that being just one of those pieces, but really wanting to bring it to the fore and focusing on our workforce, our community, our programs, and thinking about how we keep this conversation going and grow together. The Palo Alto Library put together reading lists. Where do we start? So many people said, this is terrible what happened to George Floyd. What do I do? The library helped out by putting together some reading lists on anti-racism and just how do you start conversations at all. Some of the focus for the library was on even what type of books do children see? How do they see themselves represented within the stories that they're reading or not? There are more books about animals than there are that are representing people of color. The realization of just some of these facts is a starting place for all of us as we continue to try to delve into this conversation. We did a 21-day equity challenge led by the Palo Alto Unified School District in partnership with Youth Community Services as well as the PTA Council. Just an opportunity for community learning together and dialogue about what we're reading. Broad information about the country as a whole as well as some local resources. And the website is still available at paequitychallenge.com. We have Palo Alto Reads with Richard Rothstein's book Color of Law, as well as Dr. Jennifer Eberhardt in partnership with Stanford. Her book is called Bias, and we were able to really just hear more people that have researched this work for a very long time and understand some of the unconscious things that we as regular people do on a day-to-day. Does the conversation just have to be with adults? No, this is something that our youth is very willing and show themselves as incredibly active and yearning to have this conversation. So there are resource guides for even the youngest of tots. I have a 4-year-old, so I insert things where I can as well for him. And then our Human Relations Commission led a lot of conversations, but most noteworthy is their 100 community conversations about race, where over 200 people in our community had small pod conversations among circles of friends, and 33% of those participants had never had a conversation about race before in Palo Alto. So it's very significant that we continue initiatives like that for conversation. We started doing demographic analysis of our staff, but also of our boards and commissions. So a few slides here on some of that data. We found that most of our board and commission members have lived in Palo Alto for a very long time, over 75%. And there's no judgment in any of these stats in case anybody was planning to do that. It's just information. We found that most identify as 50-50 male-female. There were other options, but those are the ones chosen. Most are owners, property owners in town. And for the racial demographic breakdown, we noticed of those that actually did fill out the survey, it's getting there. This is how you cheat. You start the next slide early. For those that did fill out the survey, over 70% identified as white alone. And there are some racial groups that are not represented, at least in those that filled out the survey, which was a good chunk of our board and commission members. So the importance of having data is to know where we are. There's no judgment, there's no set direction that we have to go, but it's important to know where we're starting, to know if it's relevant and any efforts are making any impact. Palo Alto's demographic data as a community, our Asian population has increased pretty significantly since the 2010 census, but there are other racial groups that really haven't changed at all. So this is just good information for us to have over time as we continue to look through just our community and thinking about what belonging means here. You don't have to take anything away from this slide except that the City Council started to really delve into what our police department was doing as well as the city organization as a whole, and they adopted 17 tasks for the staff and the City Council to work on in this coming year. 11 of them have been completed. They ranged from racial and identity profiling related to police, use of force, demographic analysis, gender diversity, as well as inclusion, looking at expanding our independent police auditor scope. So there's a lot of different things that were in the long list of recommendations that our council adopted. This summer in June, we had the Palo Alto Summit on Women and Girls, realizing that here in Palo Alto, there are disparate outcomes depending on gender. We wanted to involve a lot of the community in that conversation, many of whom are in this room. So thank you for all your work with that summit as well. And continuing to follow up on the recommendations that came from that. Karen will talk all about the Art Center, but I just give a plug because it's relevant in our race and equity work that the Art Center also continue to expand the conversation, showing that it can happen in many different ways, art being one of them to start a dialogue. And then our public art program also has been engaged in this. Right now, the King Residency Call for Artists has been out. The Public Art Commission will be voting tomorrow to pick an artist who will engage community dialogue and create an art piece that reflects the information that she or he is hearing from that outreach. So there are many different angles at which we can approach this conversation, and we're trying to explore them all. So what can you do? How can you get involved? First, accepting that this conversation is relevant here. I'm from Michigan. I love the rest of the country as well, but it's not just something somewhere else. This is a conversation that is relevant here, and we need to carry it forward. Continuing things like the 100 community conversations, exploring what equity looks like in your own field. We're all in our comfort zone. It's a very lovely place. I'm encouraging us to stretch a little. Don't go to panic zone. That's too much. But that orange ring is where we really want to be in our learning zone and encouraging other people to move in that space, because that's the only way, especially as adults, that we will continue to learn and grow and increase everyone's feeling of belonging in Palo Alto. Thank you so much.
Great information. Thank you so much. Is the director of the Palo Alto Arts Center. She oversees the vision, budget, marketing, and staffing. As an expert arts administrator and lecturer at San Francisco State University's Museum Studies program, Karen knows the critical role that art programs and events play in bringing the community together and diversifying culture. Karen.
Thank you so much. I'm Karen Kizel, director of the Palo Alto Arts Center. So excited to be here. The title of my talk is Palo Alto Arts Center, Art and Belonging. Belonging, as we all know, is a fundamental human need. There's so many different definitions of belonging. The one that I like the most is this idea of belonging is being in the right place. And the Palo Alto Arts Center is that right place for so many people in our community. It is a place where people come to be their best selves in community. It has been described by my staff as like a warm hug. And it has been that way since we were founded in 1971 as the Palo Alto Community Cultural Center. One of the things I like to remind people is when we opened in 1971, you could fill out a little card with information about your contact info, your art interests, your art collection, put it in a little card catalog, and you could peruse it to look for other people in the community and connect to them around art and creativity. How wonderful. So our exhibition program has always been free admission, and we create a place where people can come together to explore exhibitions with thematic concepts like sky and trees. This was play, when we invited an artist from Germany to create a giant balloon castle in our exhibition space. And our classes provide a chance for people of all ages to get their hands dirty and make art together. We offer classes, workshops, and summer camps in a wide range of media: painting, drawing, printmaking, fiber art, ceramics, so much more. COVID was very challenging for us in terms of facility closures, health department restrictions. One of the things that we took great solace in is the study, Culture and Community, that indicated that 81% of people surveyed did something creative during COVID. And we kept people creative during COVID. Our staff worked diligently to offer outdoor summer camps, virtual classes, virtual programs, virtual school tours, curbside fire and glaze programs, pottery wheel rental programs, and so much more. The next slide features a quote from a community member, so very happy about the Art Center's services during the pandemic. One of the other things that we did during the pandemic was revisit a project from 2012 by the late artist Susan O'Malley. And Susan asked 100 community members in Palo Alto back in 2012, what advice would you give your 8-year-old self? And what advice would you give your 80-year-old self? She created a series of posters that we put on display at the Art Center. And then last year, we blew them up large with a public art program on the lawn outside the Art Center and distributed a small run of posters to senior communities and to first responders. A really wonderful project. When we were able to open, we actually leveraged the opportunity to participate in important discussions around race and equity with an exhibition, The Black Index, that featured 5 Black and brown artists responding to issues of identity. And now our current exhibition, which is up until December 11th, I hope you'll all have a chance to see it, The Art of Disability Culture, features the work of 20 artists, all of whom self-identify as having a disability. This is Catherine Sherwood and one of her works. She taught for years at UC Berkeley. She developed a stroke at age 44 that required her to paint with her non-dominant hand. And she's been committed to inserting people of color and people with a broad range of abilities into the art historical canon. This fall, we invited people back to the Art Center for 2 incredibly popular events, the Clay and Glass Festival and the Great Glass Pumpkin Patch, 2 events that drew thousands of people to enjoy each other's company and celebrate creativity in a safe environment. We offered a community day in conjunction with the Art of Disability Culture that featured exhibition walkthroughs, an ASL interpreter, braille labels, a performance by blind, multidisciplinary artist Maya Scott, and deaf dancer and choreographer Antoine Hunter. Have to put in a plug for our studio sale. It's coming up on Saturday, December 4th. A great chance to see the work that's being created in our studio community and to take a piece home for yourself or to give for the holidays. So even before COVID, we were increasingly concerned with what we were calling an age of anxiety. Issues related to political discord, income inequality, climate change, all contributing to stress in our community. And we wondered how art could help. We'll also do a residency with Christine Wong Yap, who's an artist who explores belonging in her work. She'll be working with seniors and teens in the community to identify places of belonging and then create a map in our galleries to help us all locate them in our community. We'll also be working with Marcel Pardo-Arisa, who will be working with the Avenidas Rainbow Collective on a series of workshops exploring LGBTQ+ identity, celebrating with a drag show at the Art Center. We'll also be doing a series of free community art therapy workshops, working with community partners, and also a series of free wellness events, leveraging the beautiful grounds of the Art Center. As one of our community partners says, the Palo Alto Art Center is an example of a community resource that helps us flourish rather than languish. And we are actively working to help our community flourish, creating opportunities for belonging along the way. I hope that you'll join us by visiting our exhibitions, taking a class, becoming a member of the Palo Alto Art Center Foundation, or volunteering. I'm happy to share more with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for offering the opportunity. Lisa Van Duzen is the Executive Director of the Palo Alto Community Fund, a proven social entrepreneur and community change leader. Through philanthropy, advocacy, and media all, Lisa uses her skills to connect people and resources to meet some of our community's most urgent challenges like housing instability, isolation of the elderly, and the achievement gap in education. Lisa?
Hello everyone, I'm Lisa Van Duzen of the Palo Alto Community Fund. The Community Fund was founded in 1979 to create an endowment for our community. And our founders had a very big vision. Margaret Mead declared, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." We play a unique role in serving Palo Alto, East Palo Alto, and Menlo Park. We are your trusted partner in local giving. We do our homework to discover and understand the nonprofit landscape so you don't have to. And together, we're building a stronger community. The Palo Alto Community Fund is growing. Thanks to our donors, our grant dollars, and numbers are growing. Thanks to our village of nonprofits, both together and individually, our impact is growing. 1 + 1 equals way more than 2. The needs in our community are also growing. The Mid-Peninsula was ground zero for income inequality prior to the pandemic, and now the disparities have been amplified. Equipped with a 40-year history of relationships with nonprofit community, PACF was nimble and uniquely poised to provide a way for neighbors to help one another, and I know many of you have been part of that. Meet Jeremy Solario and his mom, Noemi, in front of their home on El Camino. Jeremy started kindergarten in September of 2020. This was his first day in a classroom ever. Families were falling through the cracks, and PACF stepped in to support a collaboration among PAUSD, volunteers, Cafanea, and Carrot School Project. Enhancing community life can occur in myriad ways. Some are surprisingly simple, low cost, and initiated by proactive community members. Televisit, a good example of that, was started at a Palo Alto kitchen table to provide human connection to isolated seniors. And childcare is one of those essential but often invisible services. If you don't have a safe place that's affordable for your child to go while you work, you can't go to work. Many childcare providers were stressed before the pandemic, and during quarantine, those who could opened at reduced capacity. COVID shined a light on what was already not working. Live in Peace empowers our youth to reclaim a vision for their future. Fueling a youth-centered education can mean creating learning pods with technology and adult support for remote learning, or providing rent so families can stay in their homes. And PACF supports the whole nonprofit fabric of our community. Animal-assisted happiness offers live and virtual animal visits. This bunny was the featured speaker on a Zoom call. Tax Aid helps under-resourced families with tax returns and volunteers. And Good Karma Bikes refurbishes bikes, poof, transportation. Silicon Valley stands for innovation, much of which has actually been in the nonprofit sector. COVID catalyzed the great nonprofit pivot. Many have scaled operations at warp speed. Ravenswood Family Health Network catapulted into producing barrier-free vaccine clinics at industrial scale. Nuestra Casa has been helping Latino families in East Palo Alto, Bellhaven, and North Fair Oaks learn to advocate for themselves and respond to emerging community needs and crises. Through their work on the census, COVID, immigrant rights, and climate resilience, they epitomize how the nonprofit ecosystem continues to innovate for the future. And with crisis comes opportunity. Ada's Cafe got creative with their business model. We know Ada's, and hopefully you've been able to enjoy their pastries. They pivoted from cafes and catering to the best jam, granola, and cookies anywhere. They partnered to obtain an affordable commercial kitchen, stayed close to their loyal customers, and laser focused on their special needs workforce. Doesn't this say it all? What if everyone could learn to swim, could just play, could spend time with their parents? We fill gaps, we connect dots, we bring relief, support, and joy into the lives of neighbors. We are able to do this because of you. We also connect nonprofits with each other, fostering teamwork. This team included the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, Joseph Midian, Buena Vista Neighborhood Association, Stanford Student Tutors, and Palo Alto Community Fund. None of us could have done this alone, and together we helped reopen the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park Homework Club just 2 weeks ago. We can never stop learning. Job Train is one of the many organizations we support which prepares people of all ages for sustainable careers through learning and training opportunities. Getting a second chance by entering a high-demand field can literally mean a reclaimed life. And it is nothing short of thrilling to imagine the futures that surround us. We have the perfect perch from which to discover the unexpected ways and places that needs can be met. Supporting youth mental health, which we've heard about tonight, can come in many forms. For example, Epicenter is a brand new youth art center where that happens through art therapy and other things with Children's Health Council. And over time, our nonprofit village has gathered data, conducted pilots, and discerned which solutions can actually address what seem like insurmountable problems. We are learning that we can serve as an active ingredient for transformative initiatives, and we believe that Project Home Key, Palo Alto Transitional Housing, will be one of those. People on the ground know what's needed. Like many of our grantees, United Hope Builders delivers hope and deeply practical solutions, and this is beautiful, affordable housing. So if not here, where? And if not now, when? I challenge us to create a future where everyone can thrive. Our community has a powerful asset, a vital network of nonprofits, and we already partner with 3 of tonight's speakers. Anna Liliana, here's to you. Let's follow the lead of our nonprofits. Let's all think and act big. Let's go far together now.
Elliot Wright is the Executive Director of Environmental Volunteers. He is one of the most engaged and engaging community leaders, bringing together Palo Altans of all ages. Elliot oversees training of local volunteers, enabling them to lead science and nature programs in our schools and at the Eco Center at the Palo Alto Baylands Nature Preserve. Elliot?
Mary, thank you all. Raise your hand if you've ever been out to the Eco Center. This beautiful photo coming up right now. Tonight, leaders at the Congress of Parties, COP26, are trying to solve the crisis of our time, climate change. They're trying to solve biodiversity challenges, air pollution challenges, environmental justice challenges. They're trying to solve problems that we've heard a lot about. You'll see some of these coming up on the screen, and you might even feel your heart rate rise as you see some of these. Some of them connect directly to you. I would say all of them connect directly to you. Tonight, though, I'm here to say that you shouldn't feel overwhelmed by these. That in fact, I can give you some hope. Because your actions tonight, your actions can solve the crisis on our hands. And Nicole Ardoin, head of the Social Ecology Lab at Stanford, will tell you that one of the greatest solutions to climate change is investing in environmental education and changing the tack from making people change to making people agents of change. Together, we have the chance to actually make a better future through volunteering, getting our hands involved with allcove, with the city of Palo Alto, with the Art Center, with our friends at PACF, and one other group, environmental volunteers. We offer, I can take this off, proof of and a hope for a better future. It's a real photo, I promise. We're coming into our 50th year, and I want to inspire you to get out there with us and help us reach 50,000 kids this next year. We're driven by hope. We inspire a love for science and nature. Why? Because we want to create a world where people's actions cultivate a thriving, healthy environment for all. And together, we've had 4 amazing decades, and we're on that 5th almost. Raise your hand if you've actually been involved with environmental volunteers. Oh, wow, that's great. Last year, despite the pandemic, we reached 22,000 kids through our programs, and primarily virtual programs. These programs, nonetheless, are award-winning. EVs, once they're completed their training, their flexible scheduling is accomplished, they're able to participate in a wide variety of nature and science programs for all ages. And they're all NGSS aligned, which means next generation science standards. But they go further than that. We reach deep with collaboration. So we have, since it's now our 10th year, had this Let's Go Field Trip Transportation Fund. And just this yesterday, we had a 65,000th child reached by the Let's Go Field Trip Fund. We also link arms with others. So partnerships are key, and I see so many of our partners in the room tonight. We want to help with our volunteers enabling your programs, enabling the success of your work. So if you have ideas and you want a partner, reach out. I'm also excited to share that we merged with another nonprofit, Sprout Up. They're 10 years running, they're college students, and they're at chapters across the country. So we're now nationwide doing nature science programs with volunteer college students. So if you know college students and you think that they might be interested in starting a chapter to power this youth-to-youth movement, get in touch with us. We're also reaching that other link, the teenage audience. So our Teen Action program has really expanded this last year, and we're starting to find new ways to deliver programs from youth to others. But it's this intergenerational approach. This is Joan Costin, actually, 2 years ago on her 45th year of volunteering with us. And I was there with her on Friday this last week, and so 47 years of volunteering. It's staggering. There are several others with this number of years, and so collectively, across the 450 volunteers that we engage, it's a staggering number. But let's not forget, when we think about numbers, to get back to one person, and her experience. It's powerful to consider one child. If we do this work because we believe that everyone deserves the opportunity to connect with nature. We believe that because if more people connect with nature, we all benefit. And when more people have more meaningful experiences in nature, their quality of life, their health, their social well-being improve. And in turn, our communities become stronger and more sustainable and more interconnected. And that's the vision, right? Is that we all can do something, we all are part of a better future together. So, environmental volunteers, as we approach our 49th year, coming out of the pandemic, you might have thought, oh wow, we shrunk. We had to take a step back. But really, we're poised now, and this is the sort of exciting slide for me. We're poised now to really come back stronger with the momentum that we had before the pandemic. The schools we reach. So we're in about 400 classrooms now. And in our 50th year, we want to expand meaningfully into communities that otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity. We're trying to reach programs, we're trying to offer our programs into schools that have less access, fundamentally, that are underrepresented with nature access. Here's how you can get involved. So there's a ton of great stuff from, and I see one mask of Joyce Rice right there in the middle of the crowd. She told me she'd wear it tonight so that I could see her. you can get involved with our Eco Center programs. We have a ton of fun stuff going on. There's field trips, there's restoration days, there's school programs. Thinking about purpose and belonging, I was asking my staff today, which is more important, purpose or belonging? And we came away, they're both critically important. And so on behalf of allcove, the City of Palo Alto, the Arts Center, and PACF, can we just say thank you to the Women's Club of Palo Alto for putting tonight's event on and for giving such purpose and a sense of belonging for all of us. So thank you, thank you, thank you.